Europe's digital market, how much does it create and kill jobs? Bricks and mortar retailers, even taxi drivers, are losing out to online ways to shop. Are the digital jobs created outnumbering the ones they're making redundant? Or is there no net job dividend from the digital revolution? Statistics show digital jobs pay on average less than the blue-collar and white-collar jobs they replaced, hitting hard the working and the middle class. So, should the EU be pushing harder to create a digital market across the EU 28, or instead try to protect jobs in industry and services that exist? Hello, I'm Chris Burns, and welcome to The Network, hard talk with a matrix of newsmakers. Joining us on this program, here at the European Parliament in Brussels, Pierre Steenbergen, Secretary General of the Belgian Taxi Drivers Association, GTL. In London, James Waterworth, Vice President of the Computer and Communications Industry Association, or CCIA. And also here at the European Parliament, Kostas Rosoglu, Senior Legal Officer of the European Consumer Organization, BEUC. I'd like to thank all of you for joining us. Let's start with a question to all of you, starting with Pierre. Yeah. Is the digital market a net job creator or a job killer?
We are sure that it's a job creator, because in the taxi industry, every taxi has his own driver, and it will be like that in the future too. So the revolution for us is the new apps, taxi apps you have now on the market to book taxis, and that is not making a problem for the industry. Then
it is a matter of adjustment, at least. James, how do you see it? I think I can predict what you'll say, but let's hear what you say.
Yeah, well, it's easily a job creator. A few years ago, the French government tried to estimate what was the effect of when jobs are lost in certain industries because of change, how many are created. And they came up with a statistic of, for every job lost, 2.5 or 2.6 were created. So that seemed pretty emphatic in deciding that in the end, digital creates jobs. But there's also another thing to look at, which is employability. One of the things that the European Commission has said is that by 2020, 85% of jobs will need ICT skills. So it's clear if you want to work, you need to know about digital.
Kostas, how do you see it? Consumers are also income generators too.
It is definitely a job creator as long as the traditional market and the new digital market can actually coexist. Digital technologies have always brought more competition in the market, and more competition is always good for consumers.
Okay, well, there has been controversy, especially in France, where this online application from Uber Technologies, that's an American-based company, was competing and was said to be unfairly competing with conventional taxi drivers. Pierre, do you think that the French government was right in trying to slow down at least this application?
Yes, because we have one big problem in the taxi sector. Taxis are a part of public transport, and we have very strong regulations on prices, on trainings and so on, and also on security of the cars. We are very regulated, and now you have newcomers on the market who come there with their app from outside, not from the market, and they don't have to follow all these rules. That's not fair.
Well, okay, that's it. James, a lot of people say that this is the Wild West online, that there's not enough rules, then that's what's causing a lot of people to lose out. What do you think?
No, that's clearly not true. There's a lot of rules for online services, including for the way taxis are called. I understand that many of the services operated by Uber and other companies conform to the regulations about private hire. Those rules have existed for decades. It's just the manner of calling the taxi which has changed. And indeed, what we're also seeing is the development of new ways of providing consumers with information so that they trust the service.
Kostas, I mean, from a consumer standpoint, is a consumer winning or losing in this digital revolution?
I think the consumer is only winning from the digital revolution simply because there are new technologies, there are new companies who use the technologies to provide more service to the consumer. And in the case of the Uber and the taxi, I think the Uber phenomenon was a success simply because it matched a consumer demand.
Okay, well, let me give you a figure here. The film company Kodak once employed 130,000 people. Instagram, which has pretty much replaced it, has about a dozen employees. How do you make up for that gap? Now, Pierre, I know you're a taxi driver association, but what do you think from that standpoint?
Well, I would first like to react on the former thing I have heard, because there is a very big misunderstanding. People forget that the taxi industry has its own apps, and I can't accept when we say that the taxi industry is wrong, because we use also apps. 90% of the, and no, 100% today of the territory of Germany is covered by apps from the taxi sector, from the taxi dispatching.
Okay, so it's a matter of the rules of the game, pretty much, as opposed to the actual technology. James, I mean, you know, how do you see this? There are industries that are really being shaken up by this, and there's the question of really, is there a net job increase or a job decrease? You know, think of Kodak and Instagram. That's a pretty extreme case, isn't it?
It might be more appropriate to compare Kodak with Samsung or another company which does still exist. The other thing you have to say is that for companies which have been long established, the only way they will ultimately survive is by embracing the internet. If they don't embrace the internet, they won't survive. Last year, companies that went bust in Germany, 87% of them had no internet presence. So there's a pretty strong correlation.
Okay, to Kostas then, again, this question of jobs, what kinds of jobs are being created? We see a statistic from 2009 to 2012, more than 4.3 million low-paying jobs were created, while 7.6 million middle-class paying jobs disappeared and did not reappear. You represent consumers who are also working. How disturbing is this to the consumer?
I think we are in a transition period, and then you have the traditional players who need to adapt to the new digital reality. And I think it might take some time, but I think the job balance will increase, and there will be even more jobs created by the digital technologies.
Pierre, are you that optimistic about it when you think of those statistics? Millions of jobs lost.
No. In the taxi sector, we will have no loss of jobs. The only danger is that you start with driverless cars. Then you don't need taxi drivers anymore. But, do you see these days driverless cars in Brussels or elsewhere in Europe?
Not yet.
It's for the very long term, and I am not afraid of that. And as long as that is true, there is no problem for employment.
As long as that is true. But James, I mean, that's a typical example. That it hasn't been affected yet, but there are plenty of other industries that have been affected. A lot of back office jobs have been lost because of the automation, because of the internet. How do you make up for that? And there are a lot of jobs, a lot of people that are out of jobs because they don't have the skill to do online work.
Well, you've hit on the fact that digital skills are a very important political issue. We need to make sure that people have the skills, whether they're young or whether they're mid-career, to stay relevant in the employment market. But it's clear, I would challenge the statistics you gave at the beginning in terms of good jobs. We see, for example, new jobs in the app economy. The European Commission estimated this year that there are nearly some 2 million jobs in the app economy, and those are very good, middle-class, well-paid jobs.
Okay. Kostas, how do you stop this job killing without stifling the creative potential of the digital market?
I think you need both, and you need both the offline and the online. And you need the offline to be able to interact online, and the online might have an offline presence. What is important is to give the consumer the choice. And a well-functioning market is the one who responds to consumer expectations and needs. And we see consumers who might actually go in a shop on the street to look for a product, and then they go and buy it online. Or the other way around. They do the research online, and then they go to the shop and buy it. But it's the consumer who has a choice.
Thanks, Kostas. That's all the time we've got for now. I'd like to thank our guests, Pierre Steenbergen, James Waterworth, and Kostas Rosoglu. I'm Chris Burns, and until next time, thanks for connecting with The Network.